Mr. Sanjeev Bikhchandani ji, Mr. Satish Jha, Mr. David Wilcox, distinguished members, friends, and the media fraternity. I have great pleasure in extending a warm and hearty welcome to all of you to this webinar on scaling up of for MSMEs. We are extremely grateful and thankful to Mr. Sanjeev Bikhchandani ji, founder and executive vice chairman Info Edge India Limited, Shri Satish Jha ji, chairman Edufront, One Laptop Per Child, and ReachScale, and Mr. David Wilcox, founder ReachScale and coming on board today. Satish ji and Wilcox, Mr. David Wilcox, we thank you once again for coming again for our second program with you. You know, it seems the chamber and you are together. We are together becoming popular. We hope this camaraderie continues and you keep coming to our chamber and to address our members. The chamber has been organizing regular deliberations on matters of industry, trade and commerce. Today we have extremely distinguished panel to deliberate and discuss on the issue of MSMEs and to become high growth champion enterprises. The Prime Minister has given a clarion call for the Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is banking on the performance of the MSME sector. However, the MSME sector, which forms the backbone of Indian industry and contributes a lot towards secondary and downward level production, exports and employment, has been the hardest since this pandemic and the lockdown. The sector actually, just to give you an idea, has 12 crores or 120 million people working in it, and more than and is facing acute shortage of working capital. Also, solvency issues are there with most of the MSMEs. Significant policy interventions by the government and the RBI have been a shot in the arm, but has just not enough, especially since the trickle down and of the implementation has not been complete. There is no, the big picture of MSME sectoral space in India appears stagnant. Most of the entrepreneurs get either easily satisfied or don't want to grow once they attain a certain level, managing all necessary factors to safeguard their limited operation, or wish to grow but don't know how to grow. This is a common observation that our members have shared, and we want you distinguished panels to throw some light on it. There is only a few known scaled up high growth stories or acknowledged SME leaders in the chosen field of technology or service. Most of the enterprise continue to talk about lack of access to basic factors, finance, market segments, skilled labor, technology, etc., etc. It is widely acknowledged that three most important enablers of business growth are A, internal capacity of the organization, external business and regulatory environment, and vision and drive of the entrepreneur. At the micro level, scaling up is a long-term proposition which brings its own challenges. Further, scaling up a company is not easy, as untimely changes can derail a perfectly successful business. I'd like to mention here a famous quote here that which was meant about India is growing in GDP at one point of time. That you know, it's like, it feels like I think one of our senior ministers had said that it feels like you're riding a tiger. You are enjoying the speed, but you're too scared to get off and too scared to ask the tiger to slow down. So yeah, we are you know, the MSMEs are also in a similar condition sometimes. At the macro level, adoption of differentiated approach which specifically targets and extends supports to potentially high growth enterprises is likely to generate more value and employment. I have noted only a few points. I'm sure our distinguished speakers will deliberate on these points and much more. Thank you all, and once again, welcome to all of you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Vivekji, do you want me to start now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thank you very, very much. It's a privilege to have such a amazing person, Mr. Bikhchandani, with us. I have known Mr. Bikhchandani for a long, long time, 25 years, as a TIE member, as somebody I meet at Hyatt in Delhi very often. David Wilcox is my partner from Boston, who is engaged in scale and scaling up. My focus has been scaling up from business point of view. David looks at scale from social and government point of view. I think in these times, particularly after the campaign of Prime Minister, I think it's a great opportunity to discuss that. And I would request this time David Wilcox to share with us his thoughts on how he looks at the current situation and how micro enterprises, small enterprises, they can think of scaling up and to a scale at this point in time. Over to David. David, you have only 7 minutes to go. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to thank MCCI for inviting me to this August forum. It's especially a privilege to be here with Sanjeev Bikhchandani. I've been honored to study the many contributions that he's made to India, and they are fabled. Likewise for my friend, Mr. Satish Jha. While I eagerly look forward to the fireside chat, my focus today is on the word many. For most entrepreneurs, many means a niche or a segment. But for some entrepreneurs, they look at many as reaching everyone. Many means shooting for everyone. Let everyone see the opportunities. Let everyone share their capabilities. Let everyone match those capabilities and opportunities to a job that can change their lives. Another term for many is at scale. The current pandemic is impacting everyone. We are looking for vaccines, for example, to help everyone. Pandemic examples are many. PPE at scale, testing at scale, the vaccines at scale. Satish calls shooting for everyone scaling up. Scaling up is the entrepreneur's end of the spectrum. At scale is the community and government's end. Like most entrepreneurs, our moderator and our honored guest were motivated to enable many people to innovate. Many innovating at scale means leading on two fundamental realities. First, serious leaders, independent of their age, call for themselves and others to exceed expectations, set new standards, find new solutions. Second, in making those expectation exceeding investments, they avoid the constantly presenting modest paths. They seek the maximum effort scale paths. They're harder to see, they're harder to choose, but that's what they seek. 10 years ago, I began to search the world for scale, solutions at scale to any problem, anywhere in the world. In 2010, not many innovators talked scale. The focus was on search, on social networks, not on the broader problems like water, sanitation, healthcare, and education. I thought, what if we borrowed the network effects ideas from the internet and applied them to these other problems? I found plenty of social entrepreneurs with solutions. We identified over 3,000 worldwide. And we asked those entrepreneurs, is your solution scaling up? The results, 90% were not scaling up. 90% had modest growth, not reaching network effects, not reaching scale. The results for the 10%, for the 300, we begin asking ourselves, what are they doing that's different? Not an easy question. They are working on different problems in different countries, in different sectors. The initial discoveries were not rocket science, but they were compelling. First, most startup founders that were scaling were working on more than one problem, more than one solution, more than one offering. In a world of silos, they had broken through. Second, their multi-solution minimum viable products were seen as superior by the people who had multiple problems. Finally, those superior solutions enabled them to aggregate resources and blend finance from many different sources. Those three insights were the simple beginning of assembling the key performance indicators for the organizations that were scaling, KPIs for short. What was the difference? The KPIs were not seeking modest improvement. They were seeking a 2, 3, or 5x return on investment. At ReachScale, we call them scale levers. Applying scale levers accelerated scale up. 6 months became 3 months. 6 months became 3 years. Each new ReachScale member follows a mole's use of 9 of the levers to scale up their Gujarat milk business and other products over 4 decades. As we understood the scale KPIs of the 300, we organized them into 20 different types, 20 innovation windows into how you could scale. You're welcome to Google scale and scale up to find alternative approaches. As far as I know, this scale formulation has never been done before. Solution innovators can overlay those 20 categories on any problem to seek the essential levers to grow and scale. Those levers will enable them to do that. I've been to India 25 times in the 5 years since the 300. India has 7 times more successful scale-ups in the 300 than the next closest economy. The goal of those trips: make sure that India knows what India may know. We've assembled across India and the world, but you won't find those in any scale course. There aren't scale courses in the MBA programs. So let's take a quick example and then get on to the fireside chat. Doubling farmers' income is a goal of the Indian government and of the Prime Minister. Hundreds of meetings have been held. Over 1,000 entrepreneurs are tracking to impact that goal. But the levers suggest completely new strategies. And the actual results are not succeeding against entrenched competitors. Agriculture is the big new investment area for the venture capitalists as well. Their funding is now concentrated around 5 or 6 farmer networks worldwide. One example, an organization from my hometown. From the 200 million they had raised at one point to the 800 million they have now raised, they came to the conclusion that they could not compete with that level of resource against the entrenched competitors. They used the levers to create a completely new strategy, organize a worldwide grain trading capability, and commit to pre-buy the farmers' crops in exchange for them committing to use their new technologies. Then they used international networks and the policy aggregation lever to quantify the carbon impact. That carbon ecosystem has now assembled 20 million acres across their farmer customers. Carbon capture adds downstream payments to their customers for using their products from outside sources. Other similar examples exist for water, for sanitation, for education. Satish can talk extensively about education. Mr. Bikhchandani talks frequently about jobs, job creation, and skilling. These 2 leaders are spinning up at pace just in time for our conversation this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, David. That's very, very, very enlightening. Now let me go to our chief guest, Sanjeev Bikhchandani. Sanjeev, your story is one of the most fabled from my point of view. I look at it this way. In my opinion, you were the first one who kept pace with the way the world was shaping up and imagining what Naukri became. For instance, the time gap between Monsters and Naukri was not much. We were almost in step. And nothing since then I have seen which has been as quickly achieved within the country as you did as soon as the opportunity emerged. What made that possible looking back in time?
So look, I don't know what made it possible, but let me tell you what happened. Okay, and then from there we can assess what made it possible. So I was working my last job in a company called HMM, which is now called GlaxoSmithKline. I was in marketing. It was a consumer product company, and I was working on the brand Horlicks, which is very well known in Calcutta. And Calcutta was a big market for Horlicks. It still is, I presume. We used to sit in an open hall, the marketing department, the marketing team, maybe 7, 8, 10 of us. And all were highly qualified from the IIMs and other good institutions, all MBAs. everybody was happy in their jobs because A, it's a good company, and B, there weren't too many options in 1989-90. This is pre-liberalization. So if you wanted Delhi, you wanted FMCG, you wanted marketing, not sales, and you were in the best job you could be in because there was only one other consumer marketing company in Delhi then, that was Nestle, and they would not hire from each other, right? And I used to observe that every time the office copy of Business India would come and move from desk to desk, everybody would read it from the back. Right? Because in those days, there used to be 35 to 40 pages of appointment ads at the back of Business India. Right? And I found this strange behavior because, I thought people looked at magazines, business magazines for the articles. Here, everyone was looking at the appointment ads first, and they were not applying for the job because they were not looking for a job. But they were nevertheless reading up and benchmarking and then discussing, hey, there's a job going here, what do you think? And eventually it used to come down to bitching about the companies. They aren't so badly paid, which is not true. They were quite well paid. Okay, but you're always comparing and you're always looking for better and more. And I found this to be kind of, unusual behavior, And then I used to notice that, this was a good headhunting pool for headhunters, right? 8, 10 highly qualified people in one place, MNC, consumer marketing company. So every week, 1 or 2 or 3 headhunters would call up and try and headhunt one or the other of my colleagues. And I could hear this side of the conversation. It was open hall. And, I realized that every time it's a different headhunter with a different job in a different company. And these jobs are not advertised. So, putting these two things together, I figured that A, jobs are a high interest category of information. B, most jobs are not advertised. C, there's a large market out there of jobs which are with headhunters. And there are hundreds, maybe thousands of headhunters out there, maybe with jobs in tens of thousands of companies. And I figured that if somebody were to somehow keep this, aggregate this database of jobs and keep it live and current, people would be interested in it because jobs are a high interest category of information. So I had this consumer insight, this market insight. I didn't know what to do with it. This is 8990, right? I quit my job and became an entrepreneur. Did 100 small things to get somehow sort of survive. And then in 96, I saw the internet for the first time. October 96. I had gone to a place called in Delhi in Pragati Maidan. There was an exhibition called IT Expo, organized by CII. And it used to happen every year. And I used to go every year just to see what's going on. Nothing, no specific agenda, just shooting the breeze. And I would go, and there used to be these, pavilions of these stalls of large companies, Microsoft, Adobe, Hewlett-Packard, Compaq, IBM, Dell, right? Which had no interest for me because they were making products which I couldn't afford in those days, so I would not spend time there. But there used to be this one pavilion where there would be 100 stalls of very tiny stalls of small companies. And this is where the maximum innovation was happening, street level. And I used to go there and just walk around and spend 3-4 hours there and just figure out who's doing what, right? And I saw a stall which said WWW, right? I said, what the hell is this? What women want. I mean, what is this? Okay, so I went there and I said, ye kya hai? What is this? And this guy says, now in those days, you see, the internet and email would come bundled together. And VSNL, which is a government company, had a monopoly on internet access and therefore email. There was no web-based mail, there was no Hotmail, there was no Gmail, there was no Yahoo Mail. This is October 96, right? And I went there and he says, sir, this is email. So I had vaguely heard of email and I didn't know exactly what it was and I had never seen it and I didn't know anybody who had email, right? And I said, what is email? Just show it to me. So he said, look, it's like this, you're right now you're sending faxes to overseas. They cost you 95 rupees a page, to send a fax and, the fax machine is expensive, costs $1.5 lakh and, and this is on your laptop, you attach a modem, or not laptop, on your desktop, that comes with no laptops. On your desktop, you attach a modem and, you can send somebody a message. and he will see it whenever and he'll reply. It's asynchronous. And therefore it's faster than regular post. It's cheaper than fax. It's asynchronous, but it's cheaper than fax. So I said, yeah, I'm not interested. This will be a failure. I said, this is going to be a definite failure. I said, so why? So I don't know. I said, I don't know anybody who has email. So, who will I correspond with? So it's of no use to me. It'll fail completely. It's like having the only telephone in the world. Who will you talk to? So I passed my verdict and I moved on. He's like, no, come back. So what? He said, this is also internet. They come together, bundled. So I said, what is internet? I had never heard of it. He says, so internet is you can sit on your desktop in your office. You can sit at home or your office on your laptop, on your desk, on your computer with a modem. And if you have internet access, you can access information in tens of thousands of computers from around the world. Now that interested me. I said, really? Show me. And already I was beginning to join the dots in my head, right? And he gave me a demo. There was this, it was a mono monitor. There was no color monitor in India then. It was a dial-up access modem that, he dialed up, that lights flickered, and that noise came. And he had logged in and there was no TCP/IP access. It was shell account access. It looked like DOS Unix, right? On a mono monitor, right? And only text, no graphics, no fonts, okay? And he went to a site called Yahoo, right? And he said, you can search or you can browse. So I said, let's search. And what do you want to search for? I said, let's search for India. And he searched for India and some pages came up, a recipe page, a page on the Taj Mahal and so on and so forth. There was actually very little India specific content on the net in 96, right? And I said to him, listen, I don't want to buy internet access from you because it's too expensive. It was 15,000 rupees for 500 hours. I said, I don't want it, right? I can't afford it. And, but I want to run one of those computers that others can access. So he said, sir, that is called a server. So the first time I heard the word server was then. That is called a server. And all servers are in the US. So you can't do it from here. So I said, okay. I went back home that night. I called up my brother. He's a prof at UCLA. And I said, do you know what the internet is? He said, yes, of course. I said, you mean you even have email? He started laughing. He said, of course, I use it so many hours a day. I keep sending emails, reading emails. So I said, excellent. I want to run a website and I want to have a server, which obviously is in the US, and we can run it from here through dial-up access. And I want to run a website. I want to run a job site. So he got me a shared server for $25 a month, and that's how we started. And we got 29 newspapers around the country and magazines.
Quite a story.
And we used to rehash the jobs in our own words and put them up there. And we put it up and traffic began to come, and that's how the site started. So if you were quick, it's because we were very simple.
The point is you connected the dots. No one else did. My point was initially when I started asking this question, what made you think very simply to connect the dots which were possible at that point in time, and not many can do that? How can they learn from this lesson? What is the lesson for everyone else in the past 25 years? I see people following a lead, but I don't see people stepping in the same level. That was my basic curiosity in this case.
So look, what I tell young entrepreneurs today, and I'm now joining the dots in hindsight. I didn't. It was not a formula then.
Yeah.
And what I say is that successful businesses are built on deep customer insights.
That's right. Yes.
Deep customer insights about what? About unsolved problems. Sorry. About unsolved problems. So if you can figure out, through a customer insight, and that insight is, see, there were 10 people in that hall. We all saw everybody read Business India backwards. Only I thought it was insight.
Yeah.
So look for insights. There's something unusual.
So Sanjeev, given the situations today, in your opinion, how do you connect the dots in the next 10 years? Which are the most important industries are going to be possible?
So we don't do it top down. We don't say this is the most important industry. We do it bottom up. Just observe people. Just observe people, see what they're doing or not doing and why they're doing it and how they're doing it. You will get some insights. So I'll give you one more story. So Zomato, which is so well known and such a valuable company now. Founder is a guy called Deepinder Goyal. We invested in Zomato. And I didn't know him. I just liked the site. I did a Google search, found his name. I found his email ID. I sent him a cold email. He came to see me. And I asked him, "Ye idea kahan se aaya? Where did you get this idea from?" He told me a story. He said, Deepinder was 27 then, 28, 27, right? This is 2010, May 2010. And he had passed out of, he had graduated from IIT Delhi in 2005. Worked for 1 year in a startup, as a startup, didn't work, went and joined Bain Consulting. For 3 years in Gurgaon. And he told me Bain Consulting office in Gurgaon was an office of maybe 50, 60, 70 people. Mostly male, mostly single, work long hours, would not bring food from home. Many were living away from home, right? Office at a cafeteria where they would not serve food, but you could bring your own food and eat it, right? So people who were working late would have lunch in office and dinner in office both. And maybe sometimes even breakfast, I don't know, right? And to make life easy, the admin department, the admin guys, one or two of them, had procured the delivery menu cards of roughly 80 restaurants that would deliver to that location. Right? And it was a shared resource in the cafeteria. You couldn't take the file to your desk. And Deepinder said, at 1 o'clock, there's a massive long line. It takes me 25 minutes to even access the file. And I'm hungry and I don't have time. I got work to do. So one Saturday, he said, I came in and I scanned those menu cards and uploaded them on my personal page on the office intranet. Within 2 days, the IT infra guy came to me and said, what have you done? How come all the office traffic, 90% is going to your page? What's going on? He says, that's when the penny dropped. And I figured that, look, this is not just my problem. This is a problem being faced by everybody. And aggregation of menu cards is about value. So he said, I took permission from the country manager, saying I want to work on a personal project. And so I used to go out on weekends. And I went to he went to about 800 restaurants and picked up their delivery and takeaway menu cards. And he made a website out of it called Food eBay, which the name had changed to Zomato later. Food eBay, right? And he launched and traffic began to come, and then he added more restaurants and added, Bangalore and Bombay. And traffic began to come on. He didn't have any right price. Traffic came on its own. He had hit a hot button on a customer insight. Insight was what? That consumers value aggregation of menu cards. As simple as that.
It's a great story, Sanjeev. The point is, innovation happens locally. It happens in understanding of the customer. We all know. But given the past 25 years of journey that you've seen, who are the which are the areas where you see maximum innovation or maximum business emerging now in the next couple of years?
So look, there are two, three areas, right? Two, three sources of inspiration. One is people who understand technology really well. And second is people who understand consumer really well. And if you can bring these two together and produce a solution,
okay,
you get innovation. Or you get relevant innovation.
Yeah.
Innovation is easy, but relevant innovation that will succeed in the marketplace as a product or service, that is when you have to marry both.
The second question entrepreneurs face is of basic resources, right? In the case of both your experience and Deepinder Goyal's experience, how did the resources come together?
So they don't initially. It's easier now, but 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, it was not easy. Right? Certainly 25 years ago, 97 when you launched Naukri, 23 years ago, there was no venture capital in India. Right? You had to do it. So even today, I tell young entrepreneurs that the customer's money is better than the investor's money.
That's right. Yeah.
Why? Because if you're getting the customer's money and you're getting it at a price that's higher than your cost, and the customer's paying you more than once, it means coming back, right? Then you probably have a viable business so long as you can get enough customers, right? And if you're getting the customer's money, then the investor's money will almost certainly come, because investors love to invest behind people who are getting customer money. But if you get the investor money first, there is no guarantee the customer's money will come, because see, the customer is not doing any favor. He's not your uncle or your aunt or your father or your mother. He's giving you money because he believes that you are producing something that's of value to him or her, and he or she will buy a second time only if you deliver the first time, right? On the other hand, getting investor money, it's frequently about impressing two young MBAs across the table with a PowerPoint.
Yeah. So what you're saying is the customer money is the real chasing the value money. While
that's right. And so and what I also tell people is that, look, everybody pitches to VCs and for money and to angels and so on and so forth. I always say that it's a good idea to raise money when the investor comes to you, rather than you having to go to the investor. Because that's when you get your terms of trade, the valuation you want, the terms you want, right? And the way to do that is to get customers. Get customers, investors will come to you.
Okay, so one of the questions that I think President Chamber and Vivekji have is, in the current context, number of micro enterprises, small enterprises, they're facing a lot of cash challenges, resource challenges. Do you think there is a business solution to that, or is something that only the government can handle?
So look, it's different for different cases and for different people. In some cases, the government may need to step in. Some cases, the companies may close or get consolidated. In some cases, companies may downsize, and in some cases, the companies can weather it through without having to downsize. If you have enough cash, if you see, a lot will depend on the nature of the business you built and the kind of risk you are taking, right? Now, if you are following this high valuation, high burn, let me raise a lot of money and then raise the next round at a much higher valuation, and you're being valued on GMV or volume, top line rather than profitability, unit economics, and you were sailing a little close to the wind, which is that you're leaving to the last minute to raise money because you wanted an even higher valuation, you could be in trouble. On the other hand, if you had enough money, you were being a little conservative, you were pricing it right, your unit economics are right, your burn was manageable, you had not built up cost structures where you could not pivot quickly to break even. You see, if you add headcount, you build one kind of cost. But if you're simply spending on marketing, it's another kind of cost. Marketing expenditure can be just turned off, like turning off a tap. But if you have to let go of 2,000 people in the social context of India during COVID times, it can be really painful for you, for the company, for the employees who have let go of, and for the employees who remain.
Okay.
So a lot depends on what kind of strategy you followed.
So balancing is the key, if I hear you right.
So I think it's good to be a little afraid. It's good to have been pre-COVID, always a little afraid, a little conservative, a little cautious, a little fearful.
Okay.
While at the same time moving ahead and running a business.
Great. Let me ask you, you are perhaps one person who has insight into the job market of India like no one else has. Now, an economy of 1.4 billion people, 140 crore people, given a kind of life cycle of 40, 45 years of working people have, will need to generate about 2 to 2.5 crore employment every year. Now, these can be, half of that could be, based on agriculture and others, but at least 1 crore jobs in the corporate sector, small, medium, large, etc., will have to be created. How do you see that happening?
So it's not been happening for the longest time, and that's a challenge. And for it to happen, the most basic ingredient is growth in the economy. Now, when India was growing at about 8, 9, 10% per annum as per the old GDP index in the years 2005, 6, and 7, you were creating jobs, but even then you were not creating 10 million a year. 10 million a year in India is a hard number, right? But you fundamentally have to grow at 10% per annum to come anywhere close to that number. And right now that looks like a far cry.
Okay. So the point, is it because jobs are not being created? Is it because people are not being trained to do the jobs, etc.? Ultimately, economy
it's chicken and egg. It's chicken and egg. It's iterative. I mean, see, the truth is our education institutions don't really skill people for jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Because typically, if you're a school dropout, you're not skilled for any job. If you're a BA or a BCom, you're not really skilled for a job. A lot of engineering colleges are not producing great engineers by and large. So, you're not, so you actually get skilled on the job. You actually get skilled on the job.
That's right.
Okay.
Now,
so you're not skilled until you work, and you don't get work if you're not skilled.
That's right. That's been the question since the time I began working, and it hasn't changed much. But what I see is, once I saw a WSJ article where in Bangalore, one company went through 2,000 interviews to find one person, and that one person had to be trained for 2 years before he became eligible for the kind of work they did. If that's the number we're looking at.
So that's an extreme number. I mean, that must be a highly specific, very highly skilled job, which required, 2,000 people in 2 years training is not what it normally takes. A lot of jobs are less skilled than that.
Okay.
So that's a slightly extreme number. But yes, you're right. I mean, by and large, the point you're making is correct. There's a challenge there.
Okay. People talk about your leadership style. Let's get to leadership style. People say you always focused on selecting leader colleagues and team members. What was your success factor in the way you chose your people, your own people?
So, see, I'll tell you, the truth is you can't scale if you don't let go to the right people.
Mm-hmm.
A, you want to let go, and B, the people you let go to have to be right. Okay. So initially I had problems with both. So for 10 years, I'd run a bootstrap organization where, we were always short of cash and we couldn't take large risks. And therefore I would take all the decisions, and I couldn't pay salaries, so I couldn't get great talented people. And then we raised some venture capital, which in today's terms is a very modest amount of venture capital. We raised 7.3 crores, in April 2000. And then we were able to actually get some talented people on board. But then I had a personal problem, which is for 10 years, I had been running a very tight ship. So I simply would not delegate. Now, the thing about if you get good people into the company, and you don't give them space, they will either leave or they will tell you, get out of my way. Right? And hopefully they'll tell you, get out of my way before they leave. So if you're a good listener and you're receptive to feedback, you will get out of the way. And so over the next 2-3 years, I learned to delegate because people were telling me, yeah, just don't interfere with my work. I know what I'm doing. Right? So I learned that. And I think where I learned to be a good people's person was in my first job when I was 21 years old. So straight out of college, I had joined an advertising agency called Lintas as a trainee in the client servicing or account servicing department. Now, as a trainee in the account servicing department, you are at the bottom of the food chain, completely. You get kicked by everybody, but ultimately you are accountable for the output and nobody reports to you. Nobody reports to you. So essentially you're supposed to get work out of people who are 10 years older than you, who are much more senior to you, who, if they don't do the work, nothing will happen to them.
Okay.
And but if the work doesn't get done, you're toast. So you learn to beg, plead, crawl, cajole, charm. I learned all those things in those 3 years. And I became a much, much better people's person. than I had been when I was passed out of college. So that was kind of, and that stayed with me.
So so far I'm taking away, listen to the customer and the way you connect the dots, that's one. Second, be a people person. These two things are coming out very, very strongly. Let me ask you, if you were looking at India's future today, I believed in, maybe rightly or wrongly, let me understand from you, that if we create a nation of entrepreneurs, we have a much better possibility of becoming a great nation than if you create a nation of people who are employees. What do you think of that?
That's absolutely correct. You obviously need both because entrepreneurs do need employees, but you've got to be creating enough entrepreneurs all the time. Because the truth is, look, maybe 8 out of 10 endeavors will fail. Maybe one will have a modest success, one will be a wild success. But the 8 who fail will try again, and maybe this time will be in the 2 that succeed. So eventually, a significant percentage of entrepreneurs may succeed, but in their second, third, or fourth attempt.
Okay.
Right? But you will create. But the other thing is, look, to build a large, valuable company that employs lots of people and creates value for everyone takes 10 to 20 years.
That's right.
Nothing is done in 2 years or 3 years, which is sustainable. At least not in India. Right? Infosys, 1979, 80, 81, it was founded. Yes. It was recognized as having created huge value. It went public in 93, after 13, 14 years. Yeah. It was recognized for the first time as having created huge value was in the late 90s.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
I quit my job in 1990. We went public in 2006. 16 years.
Okay. Okay. And I'll give an example. I worked at Caremark, $100,000 1985, $30 billion 2005. Yesterday, Michael Bloomberg, in 20 years, he went from nothing to $52 billion valuation. So that is another market. But when will India reach these scales, in your opinion?
Look, that's the economy thing, right? If fundamentally we are playing in a smaller market, we will create smaller market caps.
Okay.
By and large, Reliance being an exception, TCS being an exception, a few others being an exception. Okay. But by and large, you will not get the market caps that are there in China and are there in the US simply because you have a smaller economy. So to some extent, we are tethered to India's GDP growth.
Great. But I also feel that early stage companies today are getting better valuations in India compared to Boston or Silicon Valley. That's the new thing I'm seeing. Have you noticed that?
I agree with you. But you know what I tell young entrepreneurs? That in the long run, you will be valued over profit multiples.
Okay, I see.
Right? Now, that long run could be 10 years, 20 years, 15 years, I do not know. But it will happen sometime.
Okay.
Which means you have to get to profit. At some point there'll be a somewhat sane multiple. So the profit should be large enough to give you a large valuation on that same multiple.
Sure. Sanjeev, you invest in startups as well, do you?
Yes, we do, as a company.
Is it as a policy? Do you do X number every year, or is it just random?
No, not random. So we started off slowly. Over time, we built momentum. And now there's a team of 6 people working with me to look at startups. And eventually we, hope that we've now formed a fund in January.
Okay.
Yeah.
How large is that?
$100 million.
Great. Now, do you focus on areas like Delhi, Kolkata, Bombay, Bangalore? Or
not geographical areas, but we focus on internet, tech, mobile app, B2B SaaS.
Okay. What impresses you most about what you've done is Ashoka University. There was a time I used to think of founding a university, something like Ashoka, but you did it. What happened? How did you come to that point?
Long story. Goes back a long way. I finished, I was in school in Delhi, high school, St. Columbus. And in the year that I was finishing, I was in class 11. There was a 3-year window when you could write the IIT entrance exam both after class 11 and after class 12. Because the country was switching over from class 11 to class 12 nationally. And it was doing it in a 3-year window, different states at different times. So I said, class 11 is enough. If you finish class 11, you write the exam. Right? So, obviously, being Indians and, want to be an achiever, everybody wrote in class 11 first, saying we'll save a year, right? So I also prepared. I also wrote in class 11. I had a bunch of friends. I went to a school where, academically it was a great school. And, you weren't a real man if you didn't get into IIT. It's all boys school, right? And it was totally focused on academics. We used to get caned if we didn't do our homework, all those things. Now, as luck would have it, I qualified for the IIT entrance exam after class 11. And when I went for the medical test, they told me you're partially colorblind.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So they said you can join. Some careers and departments may be closed, but it's okay, you can join. Now, for the first time, I had an existential crisis. Who am I? Why am I? Where am I? Where am I headed? You are focused on IIT and suddenly you're told this. And I sat and thought for 2 weeks. And I said, you know what? If I go to IIT right now and something happens, suppose I have to leave after 1 year, 2 years, for whatever reason, I won't even be a class 12 pass. So is that a risk I want to take? And what was also the case was that my batch was the last time you could write it after class 11. So from next year, you had to finish class 12, only then write it. And IIT was moving from a 5-year course to a 4-year course that year. So I said, if I chuck up the admission right now, complete class 12 and write the exam again, right? I won't lose a year because I'll now do a 4-year course. My junior batch will not be able to write it. All the good guys from my batch are gone, right? And so it's win-win-win. I have a good chance of getting in next year and complete class 12 and going and not losing a year. So that's what I did. I took the unusual decision of chucking up an ID admission and continuing in class 12.
Okay.
But in that 1 year, I thought a lot. And I said, why do I want to be an engineer? And I said, you know what? I don't want to be an engineer. I just want to be an IITian. I'm chasing a brand. I want to join a club. I'm not passionate about it. I don't know enough about engineering. I know physics, chemistry, maths. I can pass the exam. I can study hard. So anyway, I did my class 12 board exam. I wrote the IIT. I got into IIT second time. Okay, because less competition, right? And I got into St. Stephen's College Economics. And then I said to myself, this is 3 years, that is 4 years. I don't want to work as an engineer. I want to do my MBA after that. I was clear about that. So I said, might as well do a 3-year program than a 4-year program, and I came here. Now, when I came to Delhi University, and I finished 3 years, and I graduated, and I looked back and I said, yeah, what is this? Have I made the mistake of my life by not, Delhi University was so much better, I felt. Maybe I should have gone to IIT. I was always in doubt. Anyway, not my problem. Life went on. I got into IMA. I worked. I got into IMA. I became an entrepreneur. Life went on. 2004, 20 years later, after I graduated in 84, I met a lady by then, who had been a year junior to me in college at a conference dinner. I said to her, hi, Charlie, how are you? We haven't met 20 years. She said, yeah, very well, very well. I did a master's in economics after St. Stephen's, and I studied economics in college. And I did a master's in economics at D school, and I'm now teaching in JMC as a lecturer in economics. So I said, excellent. Kya padha rahe ho? What are you teaching? She said, oh, the syllabus has not changed for the last since 1980.
That's true.
And I said, what? She says, yeah. So I said, you mean India has seen liberalization, the Soviet Union has collapsed, central planning is out, there's been an Asian financial crisis. You can't teach any of that. She says, no. I discussed it in class, but it doesn't come in exams. I said, why doesn't the syllabus change? She says, that's because there are 14 people in the curriculum committee of the university, of whom 11 oppose it, any change, and 3 are in favor. I'm on the committee, I'm in favor, but we get overruled each time. I said, what happens? She says, no, you see, one is people have to learn new stuff to teach new stuff. Not interested. Second, a lot of them doing second jobs in the afternoons. don't want that disturbed. So it's a nice little gravy train, keep it running. And I said, wow, this has to change. Right? Now, increasingly, as I was going around to, giving talks at colleges and IITs and IIMs and so on, I was being invited to several places, as we are now a well-known company. And I went to speak at Cambridge and went overseas everywhere. And I came to one more conclusion, that our institutions have not really evolved since the 70s and 80s. So is IIT excellent or are IITians excellent? Is Stephens excellent or are Stephenians excellent? Is it Darwin at work or is it institutional excellence? And the answers I came up with did not give me comfort. But anyway, not my problem. I'm running a company, I'm quite happy. And then in 2007, the principal of St. Stephen's College announced a 50% reservation for admissions with a 35% gap between the interview cutoffs of the general category and the reserve category. 35%, which means in economics, if the general cutoff is at 95%, the reserve cutoff is 60%. So all alumni were alarmed, saying, look, academically, this will be a disaster. By all means reserve seats, but do not drop the cutoff so much. 3-5% gap is fine, but not 35%. But they didn't listen. So that's when I said, okay, maybe it's time to do a different university. And by then my kids were, kind of growing up, and I was researching colleges for them. And I came to one more conclusion, that the US system is something I'd prefer to the UK system. In India, we have the UK system. Choose your subject, and that's the subject you study. US system is you study 7-8 subjects, and then you, choose your major, right? Now, so I went to my friend Ashish Dhawan, who, by the way, MCCI will be very happy to grew up in Calcutta, and is a Calcutta boy. His father was in Dunlop. And I went to him, Ashish Dhawan, and I said look, Ashish, you went to Yale on a scholarship undergrad, and then you went to Harvard Business School. Maybe it's time to start a new type of university in India, where you have width and then major, and you have really good faculty, and and so on. They have 7-8 principles, guiding principle, Ashoka, which we constructed and we follow. And he said, yes, good idea. And then we got people together, and now there are 150 founders, all of whom donated money to make it happen. So that's how it happened.
Calcutta is looking forward to Sanjeev investing in Calcutta. And so Ashish being your Calcutta boy.
I actually invested in a company called Wow Momo. I was the first investor in Wow Momo, which is a Calcutta-based, headquartered chain company. And so, yeah, I mean, so actually I had a legal matter which brought me to Calcutta quite often for about 10 years, maybe 4 times a year. So I began to love Calcutta, the people, the architecture, the food, the culture. So Calcutta is one of my favorite cities, actually.
Amazing city, actually. Yes. Yeah. So let me ask you, David, you had some questions. I'll give you 2 questions quickly, but don't make it compound, please. Simple questions. 2 simple questions, David. Quick.
Mr. David, you have to unmute yourself, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Satish, there are a lot of questions on the chat group. So,
can you hear me now?
I'm seeing the questions, Vivekji.
Yes.
No, Satish, rather than me, why don't you field a couple of the questions from the audience?
I'm trying to, read the questions that I'm seeing.
If you want, Satishji, our Mr. Kothari, he can.
Yes. Kothariji, Sanjeevji, please, Sanjeev Kothariji, go ahead. Yes.
Sanjeevji, you're on mute.
Sanjeevji, unmute yourself, please.
So it was excellent interactions going on, and I'm sorry to interrupt at between, but the basic thing which people are more concerned is the availability of the fund for the MSME so that they can get the real feel to how to scale up the MSME to a next level. So any idea, any suggestions on that?
See, there's a current crisis. I think the government will have to step in and actually make funds available, or at least relax the rules for the banks. See, banks on their own may not lend if they perceive a risk of the money not coming back. Right? So the government needs to step in and either guarantee the banks loans, make the process easier. Right? The government has done some of it, maybe some more needs to be done. Organizations like SIDBI have to come in. They've got a scheme, but maybe they need to disburse a little bit more aggressively. But long run, fundamentally, Indian industry has to invest in R&D and innovation to build IP, to produce product that is superior and differentiated, so that you can charge your prices, get your margins, and then you're profitable. And once you're profitable and with good margins and with good defensible IP, I think a lot of funding will become available. But there is no short-term quick fix solution, sir.
A follow-up question, Mr. Sanjeev Bikhchandani ji, is how does a person in rural India, how does a person in Calcutta or Bilaspur or Raipur or in Kormangla, how does he get in touch with a Sanjeev Bikhchandani who is investing in a Momo? How does he see debt? Everybody's scared now, and banks are reluctant. FNF used to be an option. By FNF, I mean friend and family. That used to be an option, but I think friends and families are themselves in deep shape. Ideas are abundant. All this SIDBI thing, you try and write to reach 10 people reach out to them, they probably respond to one of them. How do I connect? See, I'll just share my...
There are about 6,000 angel investors in India. There are angel networks everywhere. I'm a member of one or two of them. This Momo investment was alongside part of the Indian angel network. So, basically, that's the way to do it. That reach out to angels, angel networks, angel groups, reach out to seed funds. But fundamentally, the truth is, if I get 200 business plans, maybe we'll invest in one or two. The hit rate is low. Now, the same 200 business plans is going to say 50 investors, maybe 8 or 10 will get invested, maybe 15. Still a large number will not get invested, which basically means investors are not seeing merit. Now, the investor could be wrong. I don't know. I'm not saying you will fail because investors didn't invest behind you, which is why I always say get customers first. If you get customers, get revenue, get margin, get some profit, right? It's much easier to get investment for growth.
If I could say something, 9 out of 10 of the entrepreneurs that we work with, the first thing they say is, when can we go ask for the money? 9 out of 10 of them don't know what they're going to do with the money to improve the business. They don't have an explanation to the people who would provide the money about how part of the money is going to be used to innovate and improve the business. They can't explain how and what they're going to do. And until they can do that, they shouldn't ask for the money.
Sanjeev bhai.
In many of the cases that may happen, but in reality, Mr. David, there are many issues which creeps up, especially the technology for the small MSME, the small sector. Technology is very expensive these days. So how can the technological way MSME can really scale up?
See, there is no one answer for all the companies, because each company is different, it's situation specific, right? But fundamentally, for investors to invest behind you, they have to see something. Now, what is that something? Ya to founder bahut badhiya hai, it's a great founder, great founding team, investors have confidence, they will do it, right? Ya phir you already got customers, या फिर you build a great brand, या फिर, something you have to see. Or you can say, I have nothing but an idea, give me angel money. In which case, you will get smaller money, but you will have to give a larger share of your company. And the truth also is, sir, that not every type of company or industry or sector is going to be angel investable. Because जो angel investor आएगा, जो venture capital आएगा, they want an exit. And exit will be IPO, exit will be a strategic sale, exit will be a secondary sale. So if they don't see that possibility, they will say, I'll put in the money and get stuck in this company. So, customers' money is best. If you can get that, nothing like it. Maybe some debt, maybe some equity, but equity, then people want to exit. How will you get an exit? So it's not, it's a separate solution for each company. And yes, not every company's problems will be solved.
My question is a little bit different, the different companies has a different aspect altogether, but can there be some way out of which the technology or joint venture opportunity can be made available to the small SMEs?
So I don't know if the government will do that, or it's the government's job to do that. Ultimately, every entrepreneur has to find his own technology from wherever, whether it's from India, whether he develops it himself, whether he buys it from outside, whether he goes to China and gets it, Taiwan and gets it, America and gets it, Germany and I do not know. But that is, now you can have industry organizations and government organizations facilitating, a network. But ultimately, you have to get your own technology. As an entrepreneur, that's your job. I don't think anybody is going to do it for you.
Not do it really, means help in getting it.
But look, now with the internet, you can always find which technology you want and what are the candidate technologies, and then go on and talk to those people. But what kind of help are you looking for, and from whom?
It depends, the different kind of MSME has a different set of problems. And for real MSME, what it prevails in India, they don't have much of, money power to source the real technology. So there may be some role for some intermediary to get involved.
No, but that intermediary, if it's not a government organization,
so
then
in real sense, it is difficult to find help of that sort from a government.
Exactly. Now, if it's a private organization, right? That organization will ultimately want to make its money. For them, also there'll be commercial motive.
Absolutely, sir.
So, which basically you're talking about
commercial motive.
Therefore, you're talking about a technology consultant who can help you get the technology, in which case you're paying him, and you're often paying him upfront for his time.
Hariji, we'll just try and move around. I have some questions, and I hope they are the last couple of questions. Two things have come up on the chat while scaling up. So, the first question, Bikhchandani is directed to you. When you say angel networks, the moment, what is their perception of you? Suppose a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old guy walks into their office. He's got probably an idea, but do you think his experience or lack of experience will come in his way of getting
It could, but I'll tell you something. Ritesh Agarwal, you know Ritesh Agarwal, right?
I know, founder of Oyo, yeah.
Oyo. He came from Odisha, not from Calcutta, not from a big city, Odisha, right? Business family, but Odisha, right? And he managed to raise first angel money and then venture capital money, and then became a really big and valuable company. So it's possible. Now, will it happen to everybody? Answer is no. But he had an idea, he was able to sell it, and enough people backed him initially. And he went from, level 1 to level 2 to level 10. So it has happened. But does it often happen? Does it frequently happen? Does it happen to 5 out of 10 people? Answer is no. Maybe it happens to 1 out of 20 people.
Okay. My next question is, okay, VCs, Airtel network, they all like technology and everything. Now today, the subject today is scaling up of MSMEs. Now, a lot of MSMEs are in old economy or traditional economy, where there is very little scope of using technology, but they can scale up. Like, someone, India's booming infrastructure sector, someone who's working for the railways. Now, what is your 2 cents for them, or how do you, how would they get access to money apart from debt? Because see, they're traditional economy. So
I would imagine getting equity will be hard. Okay, because people who put equity will want an exit, and they'll want an exit at 5x or 10x, maybe 5 years from now. And if they don't see that prospect, chances are they will not put in equity. Right? So
what is the solution?
The solution is to get contracts, make a profit, demonstrate track record, and take debt. This is the track record, is what I think.
Kothari, I think we've taken a lot of the time of our honorable speakers, so we should now, I think we've covered most of the questions on the chat group also. And Satish Ji has been very kind to share his email and LinkedIn profile and everything. So all those people who have more questions, they can direct it to Mr. Satish Jha Ji, who can, answer them at their leisure. Kothari Ji, over to you.
Yeah. So on behalf of the chamber, as also as my own, it gives me great pleasure to propose a very hearty vote of thanks on this occasion. Scaling up is a burning topic for the MSME sector, which has become all the more difficult post-COVID and lockdown thereof. Our learned speakers have deliberated on various issues on MSME scaling up, personal experienced in great length. We are extremely thankful to Mr. Sanjeev Bikhchandani, Padma Shri, founder and executive vice chairman, Info Edge India Limited, Mr. Satish Jha, chairman, Edufront Foundation and partner, ReachScale, and Mr. David Wilcox, founder and CEO, ReachScale, for the kind presence and enlightening address today. We thank all the participants for their august presence. We thank the members of the media fraternity for joining this program and hope that the deliberation will be carried in your extreme media in a befitting manner. Last but definitely not the least, I extend my sincere thanks to our partner for this webinar, ReachScale and Edufront Foundation, without whose support the webinar could not have been organized in such a befitting manner. May I now request everyone to have a carry out this vote of thanks with acclamation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjeev Ji. Nice talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Satish Ji.
Bye, David. Bye, Satish.
Thank you.
Bye, Mungun. And
Thank
bye,
you, sir.
and bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye.
Namaskar.
Thank you, Satish Ji.
Thank you, Mununji. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Thank you so much.
It was a very enjoyable moment.
Thank you,
Thank
Sanjeev Ji. Thank you so much.
You are remembered, Mununji, everywhere.
Thank you so much. I take it as a compliment.
It is a compliment. I mean,
Thank you.
Of course, he knows you from Thai. So there was no.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.